What's going on, everyone? It is your usual co-host, Zang. This week and for the next couple weeks, actually, I'll be doing my best Ace Garcia impression. Ace, I hope I do you proud, buddy. I will be solo hosting the pod for just a couple weeks here as Ace takes care of some real-world stuff. All good, so nothing to worry about. But yeah, so I'll be doing a few solo shows. Chance for me to kind of dive in and, practice my hosting duties in the baseball offseason. So it would just be for a couple weeks, but I hope to bring you the quality that the wonderful Ace usually leads us on in this show. We will get started this week with our matchup minute. We're going to start off with Okie Sooner versus Bows, Bros, and O's. That is our first matchup of the week. Okie came into the week at 5-5 with Bows across the way at 3-7. So in terms of record, Okie was certainly projected a little bit ahead of them. Neither had a player playing on Thursday night, but they did have quite a bit going on Sunday. Okie opened up with a pretty strong performance from Trevor Lawrence, who, as we all know, certainly has that boom potential. He put up 16.02 points. So nothing too spectacular, but 153 yards, a touchdown. Unfortunately, did throw an interception, but did carry it 5 times for 9 yards in total, including a touchdown. So solid day for Trevor Lawrence over there for Okie, who obviously loves to see that, having traded for him. Puka, of course, is always present on Okie's team. Those Rams do quite a bit of work. Puka and his 14.3 points. And then also Matt Stafford with 13.2. But unfortunately, that would be about all Okie got on that day. While on the other side, Bows had some pretty strong performances led by Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback who he picked up and has been doing really, really great things for him. 23.9 points for Jacoby on the day. However, the star of the show was James Cook. Buffalo's running back had 16 carries for 48 yards, 3 for 3 on his receptions, 66 yards in those receptions, and 1 touchdown. That totaled 20.4 points for James Cook, as he was Bo's leading scorer for the week. Don't forget Jalen Hurts, not the biggest week for him, 14.5, but certainly nothing Bo's would say no to. Both teams did have a couple guys going on Monday night, and although Javonte Williams' 10 points were solid for Okie, Brock Bowers' 14.2 were even better over on Bo's side, and that did lead Bo's to the victory, 116.8 to 98.2. So pretty solid victory there for Bows. Unfortunately, this loss probably left a little bit of a sour taste in Okie's mouth, you have to imagine. He was the worst manager on the week, only 71% of his total points racked up. You're thinking, boy, 71 points. Why is that? Well, we had maybe our most significant, in terms of points, bench blunder of the season. 34 points from Sean Tucker. 34 points. That is from the Tampa Bay running back that was left on Okie's bench. Of course, had he started over really any of Okie's other guys, that would have been enough for him to secure the win over Bows. So that one does sting a little bit extra in particular. On the other hand, when you look at Sean Tucker's record, he had 10 points in week 8, but that is the only other time he's touched double digits. He had 4 weeks with 0 or a fraction of a point. So calling it a bench blunder in the decision-making sense is a little bit rough on Okie, but the score is a score. So in the end, it certainly does hurt to see all of those points left on your bench. We do have Bows now sitting at 4-7 with Okie at 5-6 following the loss. Our next matchup is Ace Garcia versus Anna Kendrick. Now, I said Ace is taking care of some personal stuff. My conspiracy theory is he's just looking to dodge the smoke, because this was an all-time bludgeoning. We saw some pretty brutal stuff here. Look, Ace, great start on Sunday from T. Higgins, 15.3 points, and that was about it. Usually I look to highlight kind of some of the notable performances. That was really it for Ace when you look at performances. So on the other side, I guess we can kind of look at the notable performances. Pardon me. Justin Herbert with only 4.3 points. David Montgomery, only 4.7 points. Ladd McConkey, who's been so reliable for him, only 4.3. Romeo Doubs, only 9.3. And Joe Flacco, who has been, awesome in Burrow's absence with 10.9. So really, really slow week for Ace, pretty much on all facets of the ball. On the other side, it was really a pretty impressive week for Anna Kendrick on pretty much every side. You saw Jahmyr Gibbs with 19.6 in that loss to Philadelphia. Devon Akane, who has shown up multiple weeks in a row here with 21.5, really impressive from Miami's running back. Deebo Samuel with 20.7. Deebo, of course, has made his way over to Anna Kendrick from Okie Sooner. We know he got a lot of points on Okie's bench early on, showing out well for Anna after that trade. But the big story on this side is George Kittle, 24.6 for 6 on his receptions, 67 yards, and 2 touchdowns for San Francisco's tight end. Huge day at the office for Kittle. He certainly seemed to be enjoying having Brock Purdy back. So really just an absolute, onslaught of offensive players on Anna's side there. Trey Tucker in his 14.7 on Monday twisted the knife just a little bit extra as Ace falls to Anna Kendrick 149.9 to 76.1. Yeesh! That is not a great score line for Ace. Just kind of seems like all his guys kind of lost it in 1 week. And hey, that'll happen in fantasy. As you can imagine, Ace was our biggest underachiever, 41% below his projected points. He was projected at 129. So to be fair to Ace, even if he had matched his projection, still wouldn't have been enough to beat Anna. But that 41% below is notable, to say the least. This was, of course, our biggest blowout. 73.8 points separated them. That's right. Anna almost doubled Ace's score there. That sounded very like rookie YouTuber. That's right. And they did this. No. But yeah, Anna nearly doubled Ace's points there. Big week for Anna. Very, very slow week for Ace. He'll look to get back on track next week. But he does still sit at 6-5 with a winning record, with Anna inching his way ever closer to 500, now at 5-6. Mike versus Rangers Cowboys is our next matchup. This one had quite a lot of drama to finish the week off, but it started a little slow on Rangers' side. Breece Hall only recorded 8.4 points in that loss to the Patriots. But, of course, Sunday is where the magic happens in fantasy football. And magic happened on Mike's side. Would you believe it? Bryce Young with 31.8 points. It finally happened. It finally happened. Big day at the office for Bryce. Really, a breakout performance from him, certainly at least this season. As I said, 31.8, 31 for 45 on completions, 448 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion, 1 carry, and that was for -1 yard. So probably on a kneel there, you would imagine. But obviously just an absolutely enormous day for Bryce Young in that win over the Falcons, the win over the Falcons. So great for Mike. He also saw a really strong performance from Derrick Henry, who I took my fair share of slam dunking on last week. His 20.2 is a more than solid performance, and really nice, on Mike's side, certainly, to see him kind of getting back to that form we all know he can be at. Travis Etienne as well with 19.3 put up some solid points for Mike. Over on Rangers' side, however, he was not going quietly. Nico Collins with 24.2 points. Christian Watson, the Green Bay wide receiver who has kind of started playing in the last few weeks and really had a breakout this week with 20.6 against the Giants. And then, of course, Travis Kelce, who, as we've said, has just really rounded into form here. 24.1 points for him, 91 yards and a touchdown. Nothing wrong there. So here we are going into Monday Night Football. Both had a couple of guys going. Mike had Ashton Jeanty and CeeDee Lamb, while Rangers Cowboys had George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. And it would be Rangers with, I believe, unless my math is wrong, the come-from-behind win to take the victory, 151.6 to 130.6. Ashton Jeanty did have 9.4, and CeeDee Lamb with a really solid 17.6 for Mike. Gave him, a solid number of points, but Jake Ferguson's 11 and George Pickens' 29.4 were the standouts in that win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Pickens was 9 for 11 in receptions, 144 yards, and a touchdown to complete it. Just a dominant day at the office for George Pickens, who's been on a solid little run here, and I think has matched up nicely with, Rangers Cowboys kind of resurgence after those few tough weeks to start out there. Rangers was our highest scorer, our biggest overachiever, 17% over his expected points, and all of that was done in a perfect week. He started everybody he should have in exactly the way he should have, and hey, it obviously paid off for him as he went over 150 there, and did beat Mike by just about 21 points. So Rangers is now sitting at 6-5 with Mike at 5-6. Both of them entered with that same record of 5-5. So this was certainly kind of a fun one to watch as they battled for who's over and who is under 500. Our next matchup is the matchup between me and KJ Lee. Now, things started off good for me on Thursday night. I won't lie, I was feeling pretty high and mighty. I felt pretty good. Drake May had 15.4, and that was frankly a pretty poor performance for him. Stephon Diggs had 19.5, but of course the big story there was Travion Henderson. 3 touchdowns, 2 of them rushing, 1 receiving. He received 31 yards, 5 for 5 on receptions, 19 carries for a total of 62 yards. So the hat trick there from New England's young running back, of course, has sort of exploded as soon as I traded for him. I was feeling pretty good. Up about 60 points on KJ as he only had the Pats defense going that day, who racked up 5 points against the Jets. But sadly, that would be about it for me on the week. Sadly for me, I should say, not for KJ. Baker Mayfield would have 17.8 points, but KJ really brought it on Sunday. Jackson Smith and Jigba with 20.6 from the wide receiver. Brock Purdy in his return had 19.3. Trey McBride, who never stopped showing up on these lists, with 20.5 points. 27.5. But his biggest scorer was Bijan Robinson, who, although he played in a loss to Carolina, it was certainly not his fault. 23 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 for 5 on receptions, and 39 yards receiving. That all tallied up to 30.3 points for Bijan Robinson in what ended up being a winning effort for KJ Lee. He did end up beating me by about 17 points, 149.6 to 132.46. So what early on looked like maybe an exciting, resurgence from me. I won last week after that trade where I sort of quote-unquote said, all right, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm trading Derrick Henry. Got Travion Henderson. He helped me win that game. And then I'm thinking, oh, boy, we're really coming back. No. KJ put things into order. We do have inverse records now. He is 7-4, and I am 4-7. Pardon me. And one would imagine the hopes for a deep playoff run certainly are probably out the window, and maybe even a playoff run. Those are fading quick. We'll move on to our 5th matchup, which is Al Martinet versus Sammy Yanks. Bit of a tough week for Al Martinet, if we're being honest. Bit of a tough week. We'll get down to that in a little bit. Spoiler alert, there is a bench blunder. But it started off with Sammy Yanks scoring 8.5 on Thursday. Hunter Henry with a couple receptions there. 4 for 6 in receptions, to be specific, and about 45 yards. Big day, of course, is on Sunday. Jared Goff had 13.1. A.J. Brown had 11.9. And to be honest, that was about it for Al Martinet. Those were the exciting score lines. And I say exciting in kind of quotes. He had a couple other guys in the 11s. Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, even as kicker, Jake Elliott had 11 points, but just not a strong enough day from Al Martinet. There wasn't that one big person or, a couple big people carrying him along. In Sammy Yank's case, there was the one big person. That one big person is the one big running back out in San Francisco, gentleman by the name of Christian McCaffrey. We all know him. 13 carries, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 for 6 on receptions, 40 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown. So a hat trick of touchdowns for McCaffrey as well, just like Travion Henderson there, doing it in a couple of different ways. So huge day for him, 35.1 points. You can always count on McCaffrey. And Drake London with a really strong performance as well, 18.9 points for Atlanta's wide receiver there. Brandon Aubrey with 9 points did fully secure the win on Monday Night Football. Just of note, the Chargers defense did record -2 here, so Sammy could have even won by a little bit more, but a win's a win, and at the end of the day, that's all we really count. This was the fewest points in a win, 109.2 was Sammy's score. Al Martinet, as I mentioned, or I forgot to mention, I should say, only scored 93.3, so he lost by a decent margin, but that margin was less than 29.5. Well, Zang, why do you say 29.5? That is because Kenneth Gainwell, the running back from Pittsburgh, was left on Al Martinet's bench, and he scored 29.5 points. That is a brutal bench blunder for Ali, and it does end up costing him the loss. It was a 2-touchdown game for Gainwell there, so definitely powered by touchdowns, which are always a little bit, tough to project forward. Gainwell did have one other week like this in week 4 against Minnesota when he had 31.4 points, so this isn't out of nowhere, but other than those 2 weeks, he's never crossed double digits. So, again, one of those where it just feels like bad luck for Al Martinet. Obviously, if he had started him, he would have won the matchup, so we got to list it as a bench blunder. But you also don't look at anybody on his list and think, boy, you shouldn't have started that guy, or boy, that was a real mistake, huh? But it does end up with Sammy taking the win. Sammy is now sitting at 7-4 with Al Martinet in the inverse record of 4-7. Our final matchup, thank you for giving me a moment to sip my water, was JMC versus Flaming Prius. This was kind of the big matchup for the week here. Prius coming in at 6-4, JMC also coming in at 6-4. So two teams right near the top of the league. And they put on quite the show for us. Sunday, we saw JMC have Kyron Williams and Marcus Mariota, a running back and a wide receiver for him, put up 16 points each. Nice and solid from there, but you all know where the show is. It's that man again. It's Josh Allen with 44.68 points. That's right, 44.68. I'll say it one more time because that's ridiculous. 44.68 points. 44 points. What are we doing? This is crazy. Of course, Josh Allen, he was the number 1 pick in our league for a reason. 19 for 30, 317 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, thrown, 2 interceptions, unfortunately, so this could have been even crazier. Might have crossed that 50 threshold. 6 carries for 40 yards, and 3 touchdowns rushing. So he really did it on both sides. The double hat trick, if you will. 3 passing touchdowns and 3 receiving and 3 rushing touchdowns. Pardon me. 3 receiving touchdowns as well would be quite the performance. You need a lot of trick plays to make that happen. But we won't fault him too much for not getting those 3 receiving touchdowns. I think that the 44.68, yes, that's 44.68 points will do just fine. So JMC was certainly feeling like he was sitting pretty well. Over on the other side, of course, Flaming Prius would not go quietly at the top of our league. Chase Brown with his 18.7 points would be one of his top scorers, along with Tataroa McMillan. Tataroa McMillan with the breakout game of his career. This is like breakout week, isn't it? So many guys having these huge weeks. 33 points for him in fantasy. All of that came from 8 receptions on 12 chances, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns for McMillan. So huge week there that helped bolster Prius. He also had some nice special teams work. Jason Myers, his kicker, had 14, and the Steelers defense had 22 points. So all of that did put him just a little bit behind JMC, but he was in my least favorite position to be in. He had one big guy going on Monday Night Football. But this time, for Flaming Prius, it did work out. Dak Prescott racked up 24.32 points on Monday night to push Prius over the edge past JMC and give him the win. 146.3 to 137.9. JMC is now 6-5 with Flaming Prius at 7-4. This was the big clash of the week, and it did not disappoint, as I said. Unfortunately, most points in a loss for JMC. Real tough loss there with 137, which is a solid scoreline. It was our narrowest victory, as you would imagine, only 8.4 points separating the two of them. And there was a bit of drama on the benches as well. JMC had not one, but two different players who were left on the bench who, if they had started, would have won him the matchup. Kenneth Walker with 20.1, Seattle's running back, who has had inconsistent but several solid weeks. But the big one was Michael Wilson, who is a name I'll admit I was not familiar with. Career day for him. 15 receptions and 185 receiving yards. That totaled up 33.5 points in total. Wilson had never crossed double digits before this season. So, again, that's one of those. You can't fault him, but it hurts to have him on the bench nonetheless. Kenneth Walker, though, is the one I think really, really hurts for JMC there. He has been good enough this season that you could talk yourself into thinking, man, I really should have had him in there. Maybe instead of a guy like Roma Dunze, who has been, inconsistent to say the best. Actually, I take that back. Roma's been quite good. Oh boy, when you look at it, it is tough. Maybe Kyle McGonigal. I don't know. It's tough. I don't envy JMC in these decisions. He is a really good team. And frankly, as I'm looking at it, I probably would have made the same choices as him, knowing, they were playing the Rams and who the Rams are. But boy, seeing those 20.1 points left on the bench, that definitely hurts. I also want to apologize earlier. I called Marcus Mariota a wide receiver. He is not a wide receiver. He's a quarterback. I got mixed up with somebody else on Washington who I'm sure I'll remember the moment I press stop on the record button. So you can look forward to me typing that into Discord sometime later. That does have the two of them. I mentioned their records already, of course. So we will move on down to the standing segment. Flaming Prius, with his win, stays atop the league at 7-4. He does also lead the league in points. So it feels pretty legit, if we're being honest. Pretty legit there up at the top for Flaming Prius at 7-4. Sammy Yanks and KJ Lee also at 7-4 in the 2 and 3 spots, respectively. Rangers Cowboys leads our next group. We're grouped in threes this week. That's kind of the theme. So groups of three. Prius, Sammy Yanks, and KJ Lee are 7-4. Rangers Cowboys, JMC, and Ace Garcia are 6-5. They take up the 4, 5, and 6 spots. Okie Sooner, Anna Kendrick, and Mike Copeland all sit just one game below 500 at 5-6. They are ranked 7, 8, and 9. That's Okie, Anna, and Mike. And then holding down the bottom, we've got Zang, Bose, and Al Martinet. The four of us are at 4 and 7, and pretty firmly in the basement there. Let's touch on our team of the week. As I'm saying this, I did not calculate our total. I'm so sorry about that. Letting Ace down. I know he loves to check in on that, see if we get over 300. I'll tally it up quickly afterwards, and I'll send it into the Discord later, so you can keep an eye on that. But Josh Allen obviously led the way. I don't need to repeat how many points he had, because I think I said it about 15 times already. But he did have those points and was our best QB for the week. Christian McCaffrey with 35.1, was our best running back, with Travion Henderson at 32.3 as our second running back. Sammy Yanks and I own the two of them. Tetaroa McMillan with his 33 was Flaming Prius' best player for the week and the best wide receiver for the week. George Pickens with 29.4, helping Rangers Cowboys win that matchup, was our wide receiver too. Trey McBride, and I believe is his second straight week as our top tight end with 27.5. Bijan Robinson leading the flex spot with 30.3. And our super flex, nice to see another QB back in there, Bryce Young with 31.8, of course, for Mike. As I mentioned, Flaming Prius had a monopoly on the special teams this week. Jason Myers with 14 points was the best kicker, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense with their 22 points helped him in that win over JMC. We'll quickly touch on wasted waivers. Greg Dortch, the Arizona wide receiver, had 18.6 points. Tyrell Shavers, Buffalo's wide receiver, had 19 points. And our top wasted waiver for the week was Justin Fields, of course, the New York Jets quarterback. He did have 19.3 points, but it has already been announced that he is going to be benched going into week 12. So I'm certainly not here to give you fantasy advice, but I would not look into picking him up. Were it me. We didn't have any transactions to really cover. So with all that being said, let's look at next week. If my math is correct, and I want to double check this, I believe there are only, 3 weeks remaining, 12 this upcoming week, 13 and 14 before we reach the playoffs. So it is getting late, very early. We will start off with a matchup that is 2 teams below 500. I don't want to say a couple of non-playoff teams because at this point still pretty much anyone could make it. But it is Bose versus Anna Kendrick. Bose sitting at 4-7 and Anna at 5-6. Bose is the projected winner here. So looking for a little upset in terms of record. Mike versus KJ Lee is our next matchup. Mike, 1 game below 500 at 5-6, and KJ in that top group at 7-4, sitting in 3rd place. KJ has just done an incredible job working the waiver wires. I know Ace's sort of little phrase is that the season is won not on the draft, but in free agency and on the waivers, and KJ is a perfect example of that. He's been doing great. He is a projected winner this week, 152 to 140 in terms of the projections. It has him about 58% over Mike. Sammy Yanks versus Flaming Prius is our next matchup. 2 teams both sitting at 7-4. As of right now, Prius is a pretty heavy favorite. I'm just quickly looking over their lineups to see if there are any. It does look like Sammy is missing both a defense and his super flex. So one would imagine those numbers will inch a little bit closer together once Sammy gets those guys into his lineup, and that is definitely one we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Zang versus Rangers Cowboys is our next matchup. Zang rang, of course, at 4-7 down in that bottom group, and Rangers Cowboys in leading off that second group in 4th place currently at 6-5. As of right now, I am projected to win over Rangers Cowboys, but it's only a 1% projection as a win, and I don't think it's going to go that way. Al Martinet will be going up against JMC, looking to redeem himself and get back on the horse a little bit after a tough loss to Flaming Prius. He is projected as a massive favorite, 63% in JMC's favor, and the records certainly reflect that. 6-5 for JMC, 4-7 for Al Martinet. Our final matchup of the week is Ace Garcia versus Oki Sooner. Oki Sooner is sitting at 5-6 with Ace at 6-5. Now, this is obviously not the case, but right now it does say that Ace only has a 7% chance of winning. I'll give you one guess what team is on a bye this week. Could it be the Chargers? It certainly could be. So he obviously hasn't adjusted his lineup quite yet. I don't think it'll be only 7%, but it's going to be a tough week for Ace, who does have a lot of those Chargers. And Oki will also, similarly to JMC, be looking to rebound after a tough loss this past week. So we'll see how all of those shake out. I appreciate you all sticking with me and hope you had a good time kind of listening to the solo show. It will, as I said, be solo for the next couple of weeks. But hopefully this did the trick, got your, you got your fantasy football podcast fix. And I'll see you again this time next week. Have a good one, everyone.
When you come out in NFL lollygagging and, not going through the motions, that kind of happens.